well, we should probably do a spoiler warning first. Warning, this episode of the HumCast will contain spoilers for Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works, Fate Stay Night Studio Dean, and Fate Zero. You have been warned.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Luca, and welcome back once again to an episode of the HumCast. Now, a few weeks ago, we originally covered our first impressions of the first episode of Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works. Now, as the fall season has now officially finished, and Fate Stay Night concluded as of yesterday, we are now back to give our final impressions on the first half of Unlimited Blade Works. Now, with me today, I have the two people who actually finished it in the HumCast with me, Wexter.
Yo.
And Heavenly.
Hello.
Alright, so now let's just start it off. What do you guys really think about Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works? How do you think it's really different from Fate Zero? What pluses and minuses do you think it has?
Why can't they release their thing on time?
You mean how long it took for the 1 hour episode to get subbed?
It's not a hard question to ask.
Well, I mean...
No, apparently it had production issues from the
Probably.
sound. It sounded like the whole episode
I actually
delayed,
don't know.
wasn't it?
With how Ufotable handles hour-long things, it's possible.
You think you'd have these things ready in advance, but I guess not.
Every studio procrastinates.
Well, I mean, the episode's out now, so I mean, overall, like, I think I'm not sure how I actually feel about Unlimited Blade Works as a whole compared to Fate Zero, because when I watched Fate Zero, it was definitely all at once, but I definitely had the feeling of Season 1 for Fate Zero, though really enjoyable, had those moments where it really did spin its wheels a fair bit, where, you know, for a tournament to decide the winner of a holy artifact, battle to the death, there certainly wasn't a lot of battling to the death, but in Unlimited Blade...
We haven't even seen some of them.
Yeah, but I mean, in Unlimited Blade Works, you definitely got the feeling of a little bit of urgency, because a few characters had died in the main series. But the problem is, once again, it felt like it was spinning its wheels sometimes with Rin and Shiro's romantic subplot. Like, I mean, it's interesting. It definitely separates itself from the Studio Dean version, where it kind of had a bit of everything, and it had that issue a bit more, while here it just kind of feels like, okay, yeah, we gotta have this because this is Unlimited Blade Works, and unfortunately, like, a few scenes kind of dragged, and a few character interactions kind of dragged, and sometimes I was just like, okay, why are they even fighting inside of a school right now when you already know that this scene's completely pointless?
In a way, I can understand how Stay Night spins its wheels a little bit more, because obviously if you're a mage, you don't want to go blasting your freaking enemy in the middle of the day, and Stay Night has much more time spent during the daytime than Zero did, which was almost always at night. So it makes a little bit of sense, but I can still see how it would interrupt the flow of the series, like you said.
I think another difference is that the first Holy Grail War that we saw in Fate Zero was a lot more orchestrated than what we're seeing in Fate Stay Night. Like, you had communication with the church constantly going on. You had, you know, the mages were being summoned to the church to hear what the priest had to say, and stuff like that kept going on. And on top of which, you had all of these peoples whose entirety and goal was to win the Holy Grail War, whereas with Fate Stay Night, you know, you have quite a few people who are younger, who are students who are going to school and stuff like that.
It's more like an amateur's Holy Grail War than this.
It really is. Like,
Holy Grail War that was Fate
This
Zero.
is just the dropout Grail War.
Basically.
Like, all of the people who are good are dead.
You have two people in the war who aren't even mages.
Yeah, and, you know, this is a side effect from the fact that it's only 10 years after. Right? No one expected the war to come again so soon, and the passing effects of the last war have not, you know, gone away yet. They're still there.
Yeah. That's definitely the biggest reason. So, in a way, because every master is less experienced, it makes more sense that they're turning their wheels a little bit, because theoretically it could take more time to plan if you don't know as well what you're doing. unlike Zero, where basically everyone knew what they were doing, and there was just a never-ending mind game.
Yeah, and there's also a matter of, the resources you had, how that goes down to education, training, and things like that. You had Kiritsugu, who was very good at hunting down people. You had Ryder's master in Fate Zero, who found Castor's lair fairly quickly because of, the knowledge that he had from having formal education. It's because of things like that that made them better mages, that let them find the other mages even faster.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to say this is probably because I know it's become almost taboo to say Urobuchi and good writing in the same sentence due to recent shows, which aren't really his fault. But that's probably half of it because of Urobuchi's writing style. He likes writing adult characters. He likes writing intelligent characters, like characters that are proactive within the plot, that constantly try to push it forward. And you kind of definitely get that in Fate Zero, which kind of plays out more like a noir kind of show, where everything is kind of slowly pieced together, the evidence, and it comes together in this really nice way. Well, Fate Stay Night feels a little bit more like your standard anime. It feels a bit more like you got your standard anime protagonist, you got your standard tsundere love interest. But I think one thing that Ufotable was able to do rather well was create these characters, give them a bit more personality than what I saw in the Studio Dean version, is that they felt a bit more human, a bit more natural, and that's probably because they worked on Zero first. So they kind of had this idea of what they were going to go for with Unlimited Blade Works.
The biggest strength that Unlimited Blade Works has, I definitely agree, is that they flesh out their characters much better. Honestly, walking into Unlimited Blade Works, I did not expect to enjoy Rin anywhere near as much as I did, because I hated her in the visual novel. And in the anime, every character seems to have their own quirks and they're a little more fun. So I think that's probably one of the biggest strengths that Unlimited Blade Works has as of now, in my opinion. When it doesn't have the excellent action scenes.
Yeah, I agree with that, just because I didn't like Rin in Studio Deans. I don't know, whatever the first Fate Stay Nights was, it's just like I didn't like her that much. She wasn't that likable of a character. She's kind of annoying. It's the same with Shiro, he was fairly annoying, and he's a lot better in the 2014 version.
The way
what I
described
also
Shiro...
kind of...
Okay. You go first.
What I also liked was just these little touches that they definitely added to Unlimited Blade Works, because they already had done Fate Zero, so they assume the audience is already familiar with that. Is that they added in these very small moments with spoiler, I guess, Sakura and Rin, where they just kind of look at each other, and it's kind of like this, "Are you doing okay?" kind of look, like, "Are you alright? Like, I can't really talk to you, but are you okay?"
Well, we also saw that with Kide and Saber.
Well,
They kind of... It seemed like it was implied that they knew each other and didn't want to get near one another. Or at least Saber implied it, I think. Just because of how she didn't go into the church. She was always outside of it.
In comparison to the visual novel, Sakura and Rin's relationship within Unlimited Blade Works is way more implied, obviously because Zero already came first, so they adapted it with knowing Zero in mind. But I kind of found it to be a nice change from the visual novel, because you only get one hint in Unlimited Blade Works for the visual novel that they could possibly be somehow related. You don't really know until Heaven's Feel. So I kind of like how they subtly put that in. I think it also sets up the Heaven's Feel movies quite well. So
I'm also going to say this. I definitely think the servants, at least in Unlimited Blade Works, I'm not as familiar with them in the Dean version because I'm maybe like a quarter of the way through, definitely feel... I kind of like them better than the Zero servants, but I also kind of like the Zero servants better than them. For example, Zero's writer, Alexander the Great, was this guy who like stole the entire show, and you just loved having him on scene. But I mean, I really love Archer in Unlimited Blade Works, who kind of does a very similar role to what Ryder did in Zero. And I also really liked... I like Saber better in Unlimited Blade Works than I did in Zero. In Zero, she always felt kind of flat. Like, she never quite... Because she always seemed like she was just going through the motions in Zero. Like, oh, I gotta fight this guy. Oh, honor. Oh, defend the kingdom.
Well, I think that a part of that is a mix of her wanting to achieve her goal and having Kiritsugu as her master, just because Kiritsugu didn't let her really do anything, I think. Like, there was no sense of reliability on Saber. He didn't really care whether Saber was there or not. Saber was really just the doorway into the war for him.
The biggest difference between Saber and Zero and Saber and Stay Night is probably most prevalent in the final episode when, like Wexler said, the show does spin its wheels quite a bit in the final episode. But you get to see this new side of a whole bunch of characters. Like, when you see Saber getting really competitive and whatnot, it's a side of her you had no idea about in Zero, and it teaches you something new about her, and it's kind of really interesting. So, I kind of find that to be really
But, I mean, at the same time, a lot of the characters are very different from each other, though, from Zero to Stay Night. Like, the caster in Zero and the caster in Stay Night, they kind of have similar ideas. Like, they just don't care about casualties. Like, they don't really care. But at the same time, like, they definitely have these very polar opposite personalities. The caster in Unlimited Blade Works is very kind of more reserved. Like, she's a little bit more pulled away. Like, she's got this crazy part of her, but she's more reserved, while in Zero, like, caster in Zero was just this out of his mind
just
out there, like, destruction, death.
I mean, yeah, Caster in the 2014 is evil, whereas the Fate Zero caster was just insane.
Yeah.
I think that's the dividing line and I think that we'll decide, or be able to decide, whether Fate Stay Night, the 2014, is good or not, I guess I'd say, just because we haven't really seen that much of Unlimited Blade Works. The past few episodes have kind of brought them up, and we're starting to see the divergence from the original series, but really until I think episode maybe 11-ish, we hadn't really seen Unlimited Blade Works in its entirety, whereas now, at the end of the first season, at the beginning of the second core, we're going to start seeing Unlimited Blade Works' story take shape.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I also feel like in Unlimited Blade Works, they killed Ryder a bit early. I was just like, that was very anticlimactic. And I understand why they did it, because her role in probably Unlimited Blade Works is just to kind of get Gilgamesh in the story. She's supposed to die so Gilgamesh can kind of show up,
come in,
be Gilgamesh,
and
do
show
his
up
crazy
his pompous white knight armor.
But at the same time, it was kind of disappointing. I don't think she really ever had a single speaking role in the entire anime. I think there may have been one moment she talked.
There was one moment she talked. A single moment. Maybe two moments.
Yeah.
No, there was a bit of time, she was mentioned.
She was okay eye candy, but I don't think she really did anything that made me go, oh yeah, I'm really looking forward to Heaven's Feel, where I could probably get to know this character a bit more. I was more like, well, that was a waste.
Ryder's role in Fate is basically reserved to primarily Fate and Heaven's Feel. In Fate, she is a minor antagonist, and in Heaven's Feel, she is I'll just leave that out. Anyway. So, in Unlimited Blade Works, she got shafted quite a bit because she was just unnecessary to the story.
And the thing is that the most non-speaking servant in Zero, Assassin, had more speaking roles than Ryder. You at least got a bit more of their character in Zero. Like, you got an idea about them. Granted, you didn't know much about them, but you had this idea. Compared to Unlimited Blade Works Ryder, where it's just like, okay, she's dead.
Okay, now what?
Yeah, they did kill her off abruptly, but, I think that was something everyone saw coming, just because Gilgamesh,
Gilgamesh and Shinji's a bitch.
No one likes Shinji, right? Like, that's open and out there.
No one likes Shinji.
No one ever likes any character named Shinji. I think this is kind of universally known. If you name your character Shinji, people are probably just not going to like him out of pure spite.
And before that is actually why his name's Shinji. That would be amazing. I would give it a 10 star just for that.
Now, this is just coming off of, like just watching a bit more of the original Dean version, is that I definitely got this feeling that the animation in Unlimited Blade Works is just, I think it may be a step up better than Zero. It definitely was. Whoa.
No, I mean, I think it's good.
There's actually a very, very big difference between the animation in Zero and the animation in Stay Night. Purely because the Stay Night spins its wheels more than Phase Zero, it gets to skimp on its budget more, so that the fight scenes within Stay Night can be even better than they were in Zero.
Well, you don't have
in my opinion.
constant scenes going on. Like, you just
Yeah,
have a lot of
it's not all consistent.
mediocre-ish scenes where they can cheap out, and like you said, and whereas Zero, you had constant fighting going on, so you had to constantly be animating something that was high quality and good quality. I think Fate Zero's is better, but I don't think Fate Stay Night is something to laugh at either, because theirs is really good.
In terms of sheer like fluidity, Zero probably is way more consistent, while Stay Night loses the fluidity. It keeps all the nice, pretty shaders that UBW does so well, and it just kicks everything up to 11 during like the intense fight scenes and whatnot.
Yeah. Now, I think we can all agree that maybe the music in Unlimited Blade Works has probably been a major disappointment of a lot of people, because the music in the Studio Dean version of Fate Stay Night is simply incredible. Like, if you actually listen to that OST on its own, you like go, that's amazing.
I haven't really
Haven't really
noticed much of the music in 2014.
It a lot of it is very forgettable unless it's a there's the soundtrack in the OST called Emiya. Unless it's Emiya or unless it's the ending, it usually just skips by me.
I mean, the ED and the OP are different. I'm just talking about like the OSTs. I haven't really noticed any of them.
The only one I've noticed is Emiya.
In Zero, we definitely had like character themes. Like, we had a character theme for Saber, we had a character theme for Lancer, we had a character theme for Ryder, we had a character theme for Caster. Like, when they were on screen, you were like, oh, that's their theme song. Like, you're like, oh, wow. Like, I think Ryder actually had a few of them. When he used his Noble Phantasm, it was just like, boom, a new song. Compared to
even Berserker had his own theme.
Yeah, even Berserker had his own theme. And Gilgamesh definitely had his own theme. And I really like Gilgamesh's theme in Zero. But in Unlimited Blade Works, I don't think there's a single character theme. Like, when, let's say, Archer's on screen compared to Saber, you don't really get the feeling that these are different songs. It all feels kind of consistently kind of downplayed music when it's talking, and when the action scene kicks up, you just kick up the notch of the orchestration, you add in maybe a little bit of Latin choir. It just sounds like it's going through the motions of trying to be an epic soundtrack, compared to Zero or original Dean version, where it was a very epic soundtrack.
I'm going to say this right now. In the second season, I can guarantee there is going to be at least one extremely standout and memorable soundtrack, because it's basically iconic within Fate Stay Night at this point. So just look out for that.
Yeah, if they don't use it, like, I think I know what you're talking about.
No, they have to use it.
Emiya. Yeah, Emiya was also in Fate Zero. That was Kirisugu's theme, was Emiya. It was a little bit more of a downplayed version of Emiya, but it was definitely...
I think, like I said, with the second season of Fate Stay Night, it's going to be showing us what we really want to see. It's going to be something where they can finally do what they want, how they want.
Once again, Stay Night Season 1, very much like Season 1 of Fate Zero, starts to really build up all the things. It builds up how ridiculously overpowered Caster can be if you let her get out of control. It builds up the Archer and Shiro relationship, along with the Archer and Rin relationship. It starts to really build up all these things, and at the very end, what do you guys think about the very end of the Season 1 finale?
I think it was a good ending. I thought that was a good place.
It was a good place to end it. It definitely was a cliffhanger ending, but it wasn't one where you went, oh, well, that's a cliffhanger. It's more like, oh,
the feels when you see Saber cry, the feels.
You get the feeling of, oh, shit's about to go down kind of cliffhanger. Zero also had that kind of cliffhanger. I think it was with the moment with Caster at the end of Season 1.
I kind of would have preferred it to be more like the ender of Fate Zero Season 1. Like, right, because it ended like right before the battle began, which got me all pumped and wanted me to get to Season 2 as soon as possible, personally. And Stay Night, it ends on a much more slower, more low tone. And
well, they gave a lot of prelude to that being the case again in the second season of Fate Stay Night. Like, without knowing what's ahead of the actual series, you can look at the context clues within the current Fate Stay Night, and you see, Archer mentions that he's going to be mage like never before when he heals over, and referring to when his, magic circles went off the Fritz and whatnot. We saw him at the gas station really take a fight to, a master, basically. So I think that what we're gonna see is Shiro stepping his game up, and that's gonna be the deciding factor.
Personally, this is...
Like, that's what you should be ready for, is for Shiro's reformation.
Personally, probably the biggest problems I have with the ending for the show is purely because I've read the visual novel and I have foresight of what's going to happen. And I personally would have preferred, like, theoretically 15 to 20 minutes after where the ended, something can happen that would have just completely blown everything away. Which means, hey, that's really good for the Season 2 opener, but it kind of ruined the momentum for me, waiting.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see that if they kind of just throw in, like, a scene. Here is Shiro, combating someone with his new, awesome, unfound powers, or something along the lines of that, just to kind of tease the next season.
Yeah. One thing that I definitely got the feeling from Fate Stay Unlimited Blade Works is, this kind of goes back to the first episode. Well, first 2 episodes, technically, because they're both episode 1. Is that, did it really need 3-hour-long episodes? Did it really need those?
In terms
compared to Fate Zero, which had 13 episodes, the first episode was about an hour long, but it was more or less 13 episodes. This one had 3-hour-long episodes, had a 12-episode runtime. Do you really think that it really needed that?
Yes, I personally do. But that's only in terms of accuracy to the visual novel and staying true to it. Most of the events within the show right now are very uncompressed in comparison to the visual novel. It's very accurate. They change a couple of scene locations. They add like a scene or two, basically within the entire show. And otherwise, it's a straight accurate adaptation that paces things extremely well. So personally, I like the inclusion of the 3-hour-long episodes, but I can understand why some people wouldn't, because it's a lot more weighty to get through.
I have no issue with the 12th episode being an hour long, but I think that they could have done the first 2 maybe 30 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
I think they could have cut down those. I don't think they were as necessary.
I can agree with that to an extent, definitely, because like they take an absurd amount of time in comparison to explain the Holy Grail War again, where they already show Knots to Zero. So you're already like, okay, I already know what the war is.
I mean, I don't mind Rin's episode being the hour long. Like, I don't mind that they're starting that off. But with Shiro's episode, I don't think we actually ever got to talk about this in the first episode. Because I think we only ever talked about episode 0 when we did.
Yeah, we only talked about episode
special.
0.
But Shiro's episode did not feel like it needed to be an hour long. It felt like it just really only needed to be 30 minutes. And I think that's where I draw a little bit of an issue with the hour-long episodes they've been doing so far, is that the final episode feels like it could have been 2 episodes, and the first episode really felt like it could be 1 episode. Just, I don't know. I'm not the director, but it just felt a little unnecessary.
I feel, probably the weakest link for the 3-hour-long episodes is Shiro's episode. Mainly not because it, I feel is useless. The way they did it feels useless. They probably could have condensed it a little bit. I just feel they focused on the wrong things for Shiro's episode. I really, once again, would have liked to see more emphasis on how the events of Fate Zero really affected him. They really only did it in passing. And they've sprinkled it throughout the series time and time again. But by the time those scenes are over, you already kind of will forget about it because they're so short.
I think they're gonna go into that some more in the second season when Shiro starts to develop more as a character.
It's definitely possible. That's probably the next place they can actually make that up.
Because in the 12th episode, they kind of already did that. Castor relinquished, the secret of Shiro having been involved in the previous Grail Wars. That threw Rin off guard and kind of just let that secret out.
Yeah, I understand that. Probably the biggest thing I want to see in Unlimited Blade Works is I want to really see them try to adapt through Shiro's eyes the horrors of what he actually saw within the fire and everything, because
not even just the fire. Novel, I want to see pre-fire, the moment where he was with his actual family, and this moment where all this almost blood came in and swallowed the city in flames. I want to see that moment.
I want to see that because that was kind of, in a way, in the visual novel. That was definitely described in it, and I want to see them pull that off. Because if they do, damn, that would be amazing.
I think that would be a memorable moment if they can really captivate the sensation which he went through. Like, it's easy to display it, but you need to do it in a way which captivates the viewers to get them really on Shiro's side during that scene.
Probably the best way they could possibly do it is like in Zero, we had the 2 episodes set aside for Kuritsugu's backstory. It's possible they could set aside a single episode for Shiro, but I'm not sure how it would keep the integrity of the flow.
I don't think that would work out too well.
I think just 10 minutes would be enough.
I think one interesting way to do it would be if they kind of made... It probably doesn't fall into the actual Unlimited Blade Works storyline, but it kind of made Shiro start talking to Rin about it, and they're kind of there conversing with the whole background as a background to their conversation. And I think if they did it something like that, it might be interesting, but it comes down to whether they can pull it off or not.
I don't think that would probably be the best possible way to handle it. I personally feel I would want to see it happen. Not see it be talked about or anything, see the events.
Well, you would be seeing it happen as he's talking and describing it.
No, that's not what
I think it really only need 10 minutes. We need that moment where wherever Shiro is, whether he's out in the streets or wherever, you see just that moment of what thief is that? And then, like, this fire consumes the town. He's running. Something falls on him. Then you just kind of end with that moment. Right. Yeah, people dying. And you just have that moment where he looks out of the rubble, where Kirisugu just finds him. You just have that moment from Fate Zero, where it's actually from Shiro's perspective, and you see Kirisugu there, and he's just kind of like crying. He's just like, I found like the saving moment.
Someone I can save.
Yeah. Like, you just need that. And I think if you just do that, that would be enough. That'd be that moment where you go, wow, that is incredible.
Yeah, it's going to come down to how they do it ultimately. Like, I'm sure there are a whole bunch of ways they could do it, which would be, pretty good, but ultimately it comes down to how they make us perceive it and how they allude to it.
Yeah. Probably. Yeah.
I mean, because, like, that's ultimate. Like, you can animate a same scene, one way, and that's fine, but, throw in a soundtrack and all of a sudden the scene's totally different, right? So it's going to come down to kind of a situation like that, how well they do the scene itself. Yeah, I don't think it's going to matter how they do it necessarily, but how well they do it.
Definitely. It's probably going to be one of the most important scenes to be directed within Stay Night.
Speaking of one thing that I feel like they can probably do in the second season pretty well, but I'm not sure how I feel about it, is Archer and Shiro. I love the fact I get to say this, and this could potentially be super major spoilers, but I think they've hinted at this enough throughout the season.
Super spoilers. Skip ahead if you do not want to hear anything relating to the second season. Anyway, go on.
Archer is Shiro. They've hinted at this throughout the entire season. And to be honest, I kind of called it, just from the character designs, before we even got into the series. I was looking at the character designs for Crunchyroll, and I was just like, those two characters look way too alike. And
I think that was just a lucky guess for you, personally. Which, when you were talking about it to Heavenly and I
I don't know, because Wexler has really good intuition about these things.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know.
Like, Wexler just has a superpower towards, like, figuring out the endings of things. I don't know how he does it, or what, soul he signed over for it, but he has that ability.
Like, to be honest, it's kind of obvious. You go from simply Rin having the pendant when she summoned Archer to she used the pendant to revive Shiro. Shiro's held on to the pendant. There you go. You've got your catalyst that summoned Archer. And then you just have these entire moments. Shiro uses the sword to look very similar to Archer's. Archer's conversations towards Shiro's. Archer's relationship with Saber, which was hugely highlighted in this last episode. It is so obvious that I feel like when it actually gets revealed in the second season, if it gets revealed, but I mean, let's face it, it's really obvious. People will not be like, oh my god, really? They'll be more like, hold up. Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, the thing
they've done plenty of foreshadowing.
In my opinion, they did a little bit too much foreshadowing. wasn't as obvious. You could definitely guess it from the elements you were given, but it wasn't as obvious within the visual novel. I feel that they made it a little bit too blatant and kind of oversimplifying it, but that's definitely the case. The biggest thing that'll make people go, oh shit, is how Shiro basically became Archer and what Archer experienced to make him to what he is within the Holy Grail War.
One thing I think they could have done differently is maybe in the gas station scene, maybe not have given Shiro Archer swords, and instead just give him 2 other swords.
Yeah, that would have worked.
I don't think they, like, by giving him those swords, it was, like, such a black and white obviousness that it's kind of like, okay, yeah, okay, yeah.
It was so black and white that as soon as I finished the episode, I went on Skype and I went, called it!
The problem with that specific scene is that I don't remember if he actually did that within the visual novel. He could have, in which case I think it would be hard to change. But I simply don't remember, so for me it could go either way.
Yeah, I just think that it was just too much foreshadowing at that point. Like, we had plenty of hints beforehand. We really did. Like, and we had hints afterwards as well. There was no need for such a black and white hint, I think.
Yeah, I think that was rather poorly handled, because just the simple conversation Shiro had with Saber the past few episodes, like, wow, you're really fighting more like Archer than you are like me, and I'm the one training you, and like, oh wow. He has that moment where he's looking at the 2 bamboo swords, and he's just like, I wish I could have swords like his, and then he's just like, no, that's ridiculous. Like, they didn't
You also see after the gas station scene where Archer, basically tells him, yeah, I experienced the same thing while I was training myself, And it's like, oh, okay. So You're saying that your situation is extremely similar down to the same body part almost? My
biggest foreshadowing factor is actually probably in the last episode, the conversation between Rin and Archer. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, that was probably one of the parts where they could have condensed things the most. I actually probably would have preferred that scene be completely wiped out and flashed back to in the second season. Because it made things so ridiculously blatant.
Was there wait, which scene? Between Rin and Archer?
Between Rin and kind of like you Rin and Archer when Shiro
when they're arguing in the house.
Yeah.
When they're arguing about Saber.
Yeah. So, it just out of curiosity, does Rin at this point know that Archer is Shiro?
She has had a flashback to one of his memories. Yes, she's pretty sure.
Not sure. Yeah.
She's pretty sure she knows his identity. She just doesn't know if he knows his identity.
Like,
which I'm guessing he does, just because
I think he's known since he was summoned. I think he's known since he was summoned, because if you kind of look at the way he talked with Rin throughout the entire thing, it was always like this kind of talking to an old friend again. Like, let's say you're like 10 years old and you're talking to somebody like right now, you're like, he
teases her throughout the whole series. I know. You know what I mean? He teases her. That's what he does. He does it in a manner which is very kind of like, oh, I know what set you off.
He knows the exact buttons to push. It's exactly it. He knows the exact buttons to push that really gets her going.
Right, and there's also the factor that you have to think about it. If he has any of his, like, even if he only gets a fragment of his memory, like he mentions, he remembers Saber, like, slightly, then he already knows the setting in which he remembers Saber, right? So that in itself is just a huge dead giveaway of who he is. Or even if it's not who he is, what time he lived in, and then you can put pieces together from there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really just one of those things I feel like was just a little bit too heavy-handed. And could have been handled better. And I mean, it's like at this point, anybody who hasn't kind of seen this coming have probably not been paying enough attention to what's been going on.
That, or maybe they're just not attentive to foreshadowing.
But I mean, it's kind of the difference, like, there's moments of very subtle foreshadowing. I think Steins Gate, the first half of Steins Gate, did that really well. Where it's like, what the pieces are, you kind of see them come together, but when you're watching it as is, like just kind of standard
You're completely oblivious.
You're completely oblivious until that moment clicks and happens. While bad foreshadowing is something more like in... what's another good example? Trying to think of a good one. Like, Chaos Head. Like the first 5 minutes of Chaos Head, where you're just like, yeah, I know how the entire series is gonna end. Just gonna... They're going through this entire thing of, you're special, da-da-da-da-da. That when the big twist happens, you're like,
Well,
duh.
doesn't Madoka Magica do that as well, though? It starts off with the ending.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Are you sure? I'm pretty sure it does.
It starts off with
yeah,
a segment of a time loop. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about.
Right,
here,
but
guys.
you know what it... Oh, my God. You know what I mean.
Yeah, but I mean, there's good
You know
foreshadowing,
what I
there's
mean.
bad foreshadowing. I think the Archer thing is kind of bad foreshadowing in Unlimited Blade Works, because it's almost like the director has a baseball bat to the back of your head, and he's just like, hey, did you notice this? Hey, did you notice this? Hey, did you notice this?
My head's bleeding, make it stop!
Compared to just kind
there's
of
a lot of
letting the
things that they
scenes
could've
and the
cut out, I
dialogue
think.
naturally fill it in. He feels like he needs to add very distinct visual cues to make you go, do you see? Hey, look at this. Look at this.
They're waving a giant neon flag, right? Like,
Yeah.
They really want us to know. And then they're gonna turn around and make it this plot twist if they do, which I will be so upset. Is like, haha, I bet you didn't know. It'd be like, how could you not know?
The thing is, it's basically blatantly obvious to everyone who is not Shiro. Because Shiro is the thickest motherfucker in existence.
Well, you also have to consider that he doesn't like Archer, and he wouldn't want to relate himself with Archer. That's, I think, also a factor. It may not necessarily be his thickness, but I think that's a contributor to the situation.
Yeah.
Like, we all know the twist is going to be coming in season 2. It's just a question of when are they going to do it. And I have a suspicion
I know
they're
when they're
probably
gonna do
going... I have a suspicion I have an idea when they're going to do it, because they've... Here's the weird part. And I know this sounds really weird, but I think Shiro's probably going to lose a body part in the second half. Just because of a single line Caster said, where she's just like, yeah, put out your right arm. And he puts out his arm where his symbols are. And she's like, his injury was in one of his arms. Like, it's just like, it kind of feels like he's going to lose a body part.
Wasn't that just a reference to handing over the commensals?
It is
Yeah,
a
but it was
reference to
just,
handing over
it's
Queen Seals,
weird.
but you're onto something.
Like, it's weird obsession parts, like the part where Caster, in that episode where Shiro's captured and she's kind of caressing one of his arms. Like, I know that's supposed to be kind of like one of those sensual things, but it's weird. They've just been highlighting his arm.
They also had the numbness
so much
on his arm. When
yeah,
they have a lot of emphasis on the arm. That it partakes in
onto
the
something.
scene, I think I just took it as command.
It's kind of like that moment in like it's kind of like that moment in episode 2 of Star Wars where they just kind of got just enough of that foreshadowing where you're like, he's gonna lose an arm. He's gonna lose an arm. Oh, there goes his arm. Like, I don't know what part it would be. It might be a leg.
I'm not
going
to say whether you're right, but you're onto something.
Like, it's just kind
That's all
of, it's
I'm
just
going
like,
to say.
is he going to lose a body part? You're really highlighting his arms here. It could just be a fact that his magic is related through his arms, and that's how he transmutes stuff, is through touching it. But, I don't know. It feels weird. But then again, Archer still has his arms, so I'm like, it could just
But
be
if they're imaginary arms,
You're onto
they
something.
could be prosthetics. God, Wexter.
It's definitely prosthetics, definitely. It's not
Definitely
prosthetics.
I don't know. It's just weird. But, whatever. It's just one of those weird things.
There was a scene I'd like to talk about real quick. It was comparatively out of context with the entire show, but I'm just gonna highlight it real quick. It was at the beginning of one of the episodes. It was Dream of Shiro's, where he basically started having like blades grow on his like body and whatnot, and he started like exploding into blades. What do you guys think of that scene?
like that. What
Yeah,
episode?
there was a scene like that. I want to say episode 6, 7, 8, somewhere around
Yeah,
that.
I remember that scene. I think it could be how Archer may have died.
Oh, you're talking about that scene.
I think that could be how they died, because I remember like the dream sequence with Rin. Like, the dream sequence where she's like viewing one of Archer's memories was very similar to that.
All right.
Well, I think that
I'm not gonna give my 2 cents because frankly they'd
I
be
think that
spoilers.
since Lord
Yeah, they would be
Wexter, the dubious and spoiler, is kind of come out and said Shiro is Archer, you can kind of assume that the dreams are interconnected.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's kind of spoilers, but it's kind of like a really way too good theory that is probably very, very true.
Yeah. Probably true.
Like, I mean, at this point, I think we could probably make our very bold predictions on how Season 2 is probably going to go. Just from that little clip they showed at the end, like the preview.
Oh, no, they didn't even show the big
you know,
twist.
They didn't show that they should
They didn't
have
show the big
shown,
twist, but I think
but
like
was
they
really
think we
left
could
out.
kind of make.
CG dragon.
Yeah.
Da, 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 da.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's...
And that's what was necessary.
Like, I think we could kind of make some small predictions based on what we saw from those previews.
Well, I think we can see more of Ilya coming up, which will be amazing for the GIF community. Tumblr, I'll be stalking you when that occurs. Just like I did in Fate Zero.
I mean, they already handled both of the Fate Hollow Atraxia openings. I mean, I have like a billion gifts from those.
I mean, it's... I think we should start making some predictions. Luke, have you seen, like, read the visual novel at all? Do you know anything about Unlimited Blade Works?
I have.
No visual novel. I watched the movie.
I know everything.
Okay, so
And the movie
I guess...
was what the movie was.
I guess I'm the only one who's going to make predictions then. I don't think Shiro's going to become Saber's master again.
Okay.
I think that's just kind of like they'll be more like a friend thing. Because, I mean, unless they kill Caster, then by the rules of the game, but Shiro doesn't have any command seals, so I'm not sure if he can actually accept her as a master. And I definitely think Gilgamesh is going to play a bigger role in the next season, like, much bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for now...
plays a bigger role than Kide does. Kide has the big spotlight in the other two routes, but Unlimited Blade Works is definitely Gil's time.
Am I the only one disappointed by Kire's situation at the end of episode 12?
Yeah!
When was Kire so weak that he couldn't defeat a few zombies? Or skeletons that came back? Like, he should be wrecking through them like candy.
Has he been doing his push-ups every morning?
Like, seriously.
Probably not. He's probably been praying too fervently.
I mean, I get that he's aged and whatnot, but I mean, this is the guy who went hand-in-hand with Kiritsugu, you know?
This isn't just that. He went hand-to-hand against Kiritsugu's apprentice and Elisfeel at the same time.
I mean, yeah,
and he beat the shit out of both of them.
He may be not weak. He's not that weak, at least.
He may not be showing his full hand. We obviously know he's stronger than what he's putting on.
Yeah, but it's just the fact that they kind of made him all bloodied and tired out. Like, it was like, come on. Even though I don't like Kide because of what he did in Fate Zero, it's like, come on, he's not that weak. Like, it's almost disappointing to see him so weak after all we saw from Fate Zero.
Like, I mean, this is the
guy.
guy...
I can see where you're coming from. We don't get to see the conclusion of that battle, is probably the biggest problem.
Yeah, I think that's a problem as well. And I mean, I think some of my biggest problems with Kirei this season is he doesn't do anything.
He's mainly the Overseer.
I know he's the Overseer, but I mean, you kind of know he's going to be the antagonist of the series. You know, he's the big bad.
He definitely has a lot of ulterior motives.
I mean, we've known he's had ulterior motives. That's why Gilgamesh is still around, you know?
But, I mean, his ulterior motives have already been realized. We just don't know if they've been revealed or not.
Well, I mean, it's just kind of weird, because you'd think Kirei would be that guy when Caster shows up. He's like, I'm a master now. Where's the Lesser Grail? He'd be like, meh, I don't know what you're talking about. And by the way, if you're here as a servant, I'm going to crush your neck.
Yeah,
that would have been like Kirei in Fate Zero. He would have been like, I don't know what you're talking about. That doesn't exist. You're mad.
Yeah,
man.
I'm
gonna now beat the shit out of you. Compared to him here, where he's just like,
I just feel like they made Kirei too weak.
I mean, I know that's supposed to highlight how powerful Caster is right now, but I mean, this is like the same Kirei.
But he wasn't fighting Caster. He was just fighting these ads.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, sure they come back, but let's be honest, he should be able to eat through them.
These are the same kind of things that Shiro took out with a bloody mop.
Yeah, basically.
Like, Kirei should be blasting.
So Kirei should be like, he should be the Superman in this situation.
Yeah, I think they handled that scene a little bit poorly in comparison to, mainly in comparison to Ren and Shiro's fight in the school with the monsters.
Yeah, Shiro beat the shit out of these things with a mop. Kirei should
he's
be
not even a
blasting them
mage.
apart.
Right, and Kire's, he's got his freaking knife thingies out, and all of a sudden, he can't handle a few of them, a few dozen of them?
And I don't even know if he still has his command seal powers, because if he has that, then, hell, he should be obliterating these things without even thought. He should be boom, blowing their heads off without even...
He had an armful of them, so I imagine he does.
He, a fart from Kirei should be killing these things without even a second thought here.
Allow me, if you will, to possibly say something. You see, as a overseer of the war, you can't really do too much. He could be faking his own death, so that he can actually realize his ulterior motives.
I know, but Castor
how active is the church, though?
And at the same time, Castor's clearly breaking the rules. He should be as overseer, I'm going to beat your ass now.
Wait, is there any... Well, there are no real rules about the transferring of a master, is there?
Yeah, there's not really.
So,
at the same time, it's a servant as a master. These are clear either rule violations or rule bendings. Because it's very simple. The rules are these very simple. 7 mages, 7 servants.
Broken.
Castor's broken the rules here.
I mean, isn't part of the rules is not to not have your battles interfere too much with humans?
Mm-hmm. She's also broken the rules there.
And that rule has been
disregarded by 3 masters.
This is the same rule-breaking stuff that in Fate Zero, they went, okay, hold off the killing of each other. We gotta kill Castor first because,
okay, and there's also this,
crazy.
In the Fate Zero, you had Castor, when Castor went running amok, the church came down and said, a command seal. Whoever kills him gets it.
Yeah. Mainly, it was the overseer of that war who set down the command seal.
Right.
Now, we could see Kirei
we're just not seeing... We're not seeing the church is that active in this holy war.
The church is so inactive that the next person to come visit, the church in Fuyuki after the Grail War is over is 6 months later. That's how inactive the church is for this.
Right, so... he had no reason to fake his death if the church is that inactive.
Yeah.
He's free. He's got free reign then, just because of how inactive they already are.
And I don't understand why he wouldn't at least try to fight Castor hand to hand. Because he's clearly capable. I think he could take another servant on pretty easily. Because we saw with Castor's master that if he can do it easily, Kirei can do it super easily.
I mean, Castor's kind of OP, right? We can establish that. She's
because of how poor the other masters are, lets her get so out of control.
It's pretty rough.
At the same time, Archer pretty much had her on the ropes. So she's not that insanely powerful. We can assume Kirei, who's
her noble phantasm, is what's powerful. Okay.
Oh, it's a rule breaker.
Yeah, it's a rule breaker.
Literally, that's what it does. But...
Her noble phantasm is what's overpowered.
Which I wish they would have explained more, because...
It was kind of weird.
To be honest, they just said, my noble phantasm is rule breaker. Okay, well, more details, please? Why does it allow you to take Saber away?
My biggest problem with it is that it's not entirely historically accurate.
Yeah,
with her identity.
I definitely get that feeling,
No, it's probably a plot device, right?
It's not accurate at all.
Device.
It's a plot device, yeah.
But at the same time, it's kind of weird that she... Because Castor is somebody who loves to gloat. She's gloated how many times now? The moment when Shiro was captured, she's just oh yeah, this is what I'm doing, arrogant. This is how I'm doing it, and it's gonna screw you up. It's probably gonna kill you, just as a warning. Compared to when she used her phantasm, you're just yeah, where's the explanation part here? This is the part you go, ha ha ha, this is how it does its thing, ha 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 ha, this is how I've taken control of Saber. It's kind of yo, where's the part where you go?
Right, I think a part of that, though, is that maybe, and this is just purely theoretical on my side, but it's because of the caster class in general, that's why we see them as evil or not good, is probably because I think that in their lifetime, during their history, they were probably hunted down by humans just because of the anti-witch sentiment which exists, both in our world and I imagine in the past as well of the Fate world. We had even now, we had, witch hunts and whatnot back how many centuries ago, and I'm sure it was the same in the Fate universe, where Castor was extremely hunted and discriminated against.
In the Fate universe, there are even witch hunts going on to present time.
Right, that's true. We saw that in Fate Zero, where they, went after...
Yeah.
Yeah.
The dead apostles on the island scooted on.
So, I mean, it wouldn't be a surprise if a lot of that arrogance and hostility towards humans and not caring comes from a build-up of kind of like a, you did this to yourself,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how I should feel about Season 1 of Unlimited Blade Works as a whole. There's a lot of things that I definitely think it hit absolutely home, essentially the way it needed to do, but it definitely had a few things where you walk out and you're like, that could have been done better. The foreshadowing with Archer, like, if I guess right, which I'm assuming I have guessed right, pretty obvious. They've kind of bombed their foreshadowing.
Yeah. My biggest complaint with Stay Night is, I've already said this on the Hummingbird, but it's a very safe adaptation. It adapts things extremely effectively and accurately, but it doesn't really take too many outside steps outside of what the visual novel does, and when it does, all it does is seem to shoot itself in the foot, like with the over-foreshadowing of Archer, for example.
So, in other words, what you're saying is that you need to go to an animation studio, give them a visual novel, shoot them in the head until they're brain dead and are only able to animate what they see in the visual novel.
No.
That's
I would have liked to see them take more liberties, just not...
Right, but what you're saying is that they screw up every time they try to do that.
Well, I mean, I don't think you could say they've kind of screwed up, because we've talked about bad visual novel adaptations. We've talked about good visual novel adaptations in the past.
Stay Night is a good visual novel
This is a good visual novel
adaptation. It's just not as good as it could have been.
It's definitely done what it's needed to do.
It's not grenading the lobby.
Good.
Let's put it that way.
It's not grenading the lobby. No, it's not grenading the lobby. But I mean, at the same time, it's not really doing anything spectacular. It's not doing anything that will blow away an audience that has already been exposed to the Fate universe in the past. It's not Fate Zero.
Yeah, it's not going to be Fate Zero. The way it's executed, definitely as an adaptation, suits it perfectly. But nothing it's trying to do right now is going to push it up to the higher echelons of anime perfection or anything.
Like I said, we're gonna
do that.
What they have to bring in the second season. I think for the first season they've stuck by the first animation of Fate Stay Night to a degree, while trying to incorporate the Unlimited Blade Works. But now with episode 12 and I think 11 as well, they've kind of stepped out of the Fate Stay Night Studio Dean version and are now kind of on their own. Like, good or bad, it's totally up to them. There are no more ropes, right? Whether the Studio Dean version were safety ropes or restraints is, up to whoever to decide, but regardless, the second season is going to lose those ropes. So good or bad or whatever, it's all on them.
Its safety net is definitely...
The season opener is going to be a blast.
It better be.
Definitely the safety ropes are now gone with Unlimited Blade Works. I think what it really needs to do to absolutely hit a home run and make us forget about this kind of it's good but not quite good enough first season is to definitely hit from the ground running like Zero did. Hit every point you absolutely have to. You just go, 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 go. You keep it going. You keep it going. You keep it going. You never slow down. You never give the audience a single breather of an episode where they go, oh, wow, that was... Oh, you just gotta keep going till at the end of the series, when everything's all said and done, the audience is just like,
It's time to see what Shiro's got. Does he have it or doesn't he? Let's see it.
If I recall correctly, the next season of Stay Night's going to have... I don't think it has any more slice of life elements to it. I think it's just all Holy Grail War. So I can definitely see that coming pretty well.
And from that respect, I definitely feel like the Heaven's Feel movie will probably be a really good movie because it's going to be like the second season of Fate Zero and probably Unlimited Blade Works, where it's just going to hit the ground running and deal with all of this Holy Grail War stuff, assuming you already know the basics. Because at this point, Zero's insanely popular, Unlimited Blade Works is really popular, and then you also have the original Studio Dean version. You probably have some exposure to Fate. So they're probably just going to cut a lot of this explanation stuff out. That's been absolutely
they will
a drag
have
on
to cut
not
the
only
explanation stuff
Fate
out.
Zero.
It's going to be too long.
I'm not sure if it's going to be too long.
Well, that and with Heaven's Feel, you're already expecting to know stuff from Fate and Unlimited Blade Works going to Heaven's Feel. There are plot points within Fate and Unlimited Blade Works that will not make sense to you when they're brought up in Heaven's Feel unless you've already experienced them in those two routes. So, I think basically Fate Zero and Unlimited Blade Works are a requirement if you're going to go into the Heaven's Feel.
So if they're gonna mess up Unlimited Blade Works, they essentially mess up Heaven's Feel.
Heaven's Feel.
So they can't mess up either of them.
Mm-hmm.
They're
can't.
walking on a
Like-
fine tightrope.
Like,
Definitely.
as I said, to absolutely not make Unlimited Blade Works just has to hit the ground running completely in its second season, and it cannot give the audience a single episode to breathe. It has to be consistently action-packed or consistently intriguing. It cannot let us go, it's just spinning its wheels. We got another moment of slice of life. It's just gotta hit absolutely dead on. And if it can do that, like, let's face it here, this first season will probably just be like, you know what? It's the first half. You gotta give it some time compared to this is a complete season. We've seen
It's like
it.
a fine wine. Let it breathe a little bit before you start enjoying everything it has to offer
Breathing, just smuggling.
in the second
Like-
season.
Take it.
And that's why I feel like the Heavens Feel, they definitely made the right decision by making Heavens Feel a movie instead of another anime series, is by going, you know what, we can cut a lot of this
How
fillery stuff
long
out.
is the movie? What, 2 hours, 3 hours?
I'm assuming
The
it's
Unlimited
probably-
Blade Works
No,
movie?
the Heaven's Feel. How long is that going to be?
It's not.
We don't
We
know.
don't know.
I hope it's just...
I'm assuming it's
It's
probably
not-
going to
Yeah,
be
it's
a
not
it
out.
should be like a 2
We'll
hour
assume
movie, not like a 90-minute movie.
90 minutes. is
It'll
not-
probably be. My guess is it's either going to be a 2 hour movie, which I hope it's not personally, or it's going to try to challenge disappearance of Haruhi as the longest anime.
I think
Or it's
180
the longest popular
minutes
anime
is
movie.
about the spot where it needs to be at. That's basically the equivalent of 6
Yeah.
episodes.
Basically, either it needs 2 movies or it needs 1 really long movie. Because there's a lot of information about the Matos within Heaven's Feel that you just need to know
Well,
in
you just
order to
don't.
understand
Yeah,
Heaven's
you
Feel.
don't get to know that. Like I'm sure it's not mentioned in Unlimited Blade Works because there's no need.
It's only mentioned in Heaven's Feel.
And we know a little bit from Fate Zero, but
Fate
we
Zero.
barely know anything even from that.
We know the Matos, if you only have Fate Zero knowledge, are still an extremely enigmatic household. So they're going to need to. Heaven's Feel is going to need to present the information about the Matos in as effective method as possible while still making it fairly short.
Yeah, so I think
That's going to be the biggest
I think
challenge.
180 minutes, maybe a little bit less, would be good for it. Just as long as it's not. I don't want to see like 60 minutes or 90 minutes. I think that'd be just not enough time.
No,
Yeah.
no way they're going to be able to do that in 90 minutes. 'Cause,
It would be
we've
impossible.
already experienced this enough times with Steins Gate and Madoka Rebellion, where we went, it's not enough time to tell this story.
No,
And if-
not even that. The easiest example to compare this to would be the Dean Unlimited Blade Works movie,
Yeah,
which was 90 minutes, and it was horrible.
yeah, like
Not only was it horrible, it was a train wreck.
It was an absolute train wreck. Wexter, don't watch
I
it.
think I'm not gonna watch it because if I watch it, I'm probably gonna end up going into this, going into our groups and being like, called it. Yes,
I've
I win.
seen the Unlimited Blade Works movie, and having not seen anything else regarding Unlimited Blade Works, the only thing I can say is that even with the second season, I really don't know what to expect because Unlimited Blade Works was such a
Was
train
so
wreck.
condensed.
The only thing I
Yeah.
feel like I know are the spoilers.
Yeah.
Like, I know like 4 things out of that movie, and all of them are major points in the plot, I think. So that's all I know.
the biggest
Unlimited
thing,
Blade Works is the abridgment. As the movie
it's
is the
spoilers.
abridged
It's
series
the spoilers
of the TV show.
It's the spoilers of Unlimited Blade
Yeah.
Works.
It's basically the best of Unlimited Blade Works.
Yeah.
Is all.
So like I that's all I know from it. I know spoilers from it. That's about all. That's all it gave it to me.
The biggest example of the problems that the Unlimited Blade Works movie has is, this isn't spoilers because this already just happened in the anime, is after like the first or second encounter they had with Castor, right? They go home. They condense this thing so much that when they go home, Castor is waiting for them and rule breaks Saber there.
Yeah.
within a span of like 5 minutes after they encountered her, in terms of movie time.
Yeah.
They move very fast.
Yeah,
like
it's like the Millennium Falcon wishes it could go that fast.
Like I mean,
It's
overall,
a
I
pretty
think we can
rough
all
train
safely agree
wreck.
that this has been a. I think we can all agree that so far this is probably the best adaptation of Fate Stay Night so far.
Out of
Not the
all
best
three of
Fate
them, yeah, this is
Fate
by
TV
far-
show,
It's-
but of the visual novel.
I mean, this is all there really is, right? There's Fate Stay, Studio D, Fate Stay 2014, and then Unlimited Blade Works the movie.
Fate Zero. Fate Zero, and then there's the side stuff, which we're not going to talk about, like Fate Lolly.
Oh, don't get me started on wanting an Apocrypha anime. Like,
Okay,
I think we
but,
could save that for another time.
So if you somehow waded through all these spoilers and you feel like watching Unlimited Blade Works, probably the best things you're going to want to keep in mind is the fact that this is by far the most accessible Fate show, in my opinion. What do you guys agree with that?
It's the best one. It's the only one you should watch.
No, it's the easiest to get into in comparison to stuff like Zero.
I think Zero
It's like
and
most
this
accessible
are both
to everyone.
I think
if
they
you're
both have
not
fairly
if you're
accessible.
not ready for Zero, it's going to hit you hard. Maybe Fate Stay Night's better to go into first, and then you go watch Fate Zero. If you're kind of more seasoned towards series, you can probably walk into Fate Zero. But if you're completely new, I'd recommend Fate Stay before Fate Zero, just because I feel like Fate Zero is too much of an anime for some people.
Yeah, definitely, because the way I would actually probably be more closer to how Fate Zero was intended to be watched or read, because you're expected to already know plot points within Stay Night, as they're brought up within Zero, because, like, you're already supposed to know the ending for Stay Night when you watch Fate Zero, but it's more the journey of how things play out. So I think
Zero.
If you're going to get into Stay Night first, you're going to want to watch Unlimited Blade Works, you're going to watch the Hemisphere movies, and then get into Zero.
I don't know. I think Zero was kind of a good enough standalone series on its own that
Oh,
it kind of leads into
was.
Unlimited Blade Works enough on its
hard.
own. Like I think you kind of watch it either way.
Yeah,
I think
but
you can go
like,
Unlimited
let's
Blade
take it
Works
this way.
Zero
Max.
or
Let's
Zero.
take it this way. If there was someone who was totally new, Fate Zero, Fate Stay Night, which one would you make them watch first?
I'd make them watch Fate Stay Night, Unlimited Blade Works the movie first by Studio D. I think that's the most accessible Fate
What?
Zero.
No,
Fate series.
What?
What?
No.
No.
that was
No,
wrong.
sorry, my bad. I mean, Carnival Phantasm would probably be the best, most
We're
accessible.
talking about it. We're talking
Okay,
about
stop
Fate Stay
screwing
Night,
around.
Unlimited Blade Works or Fate Zero.
Stop
Like, it's
screwing
gotta be
around.
one of these two.
Personally, I think that Fate Prima, Fate Kali Prima is probably the best one to get into first.
To say that.
Yeah, Fate Alien.
Yeah.
Totally. And so that way you don't call Betrayal in the second season.
And for the Science Adventure series, probably the best one to start with would probably be Chaos Head.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chaos Head.
I
Best
like
place to
Chaos
start.
Head.
Start at the lowest of the low, then work your way
I
up.
didn't hate it, but no.
Start with Chaos
The
Head.
the issue with Fate
Robotics Notes,
Zero
and
is
then
that
Steins.
it's extremely word heavy. It's extremely series heavy.
I think the problem with
it's-
Fate Zero on the accessibility point is the first episode is very info dump.
They're all info
compared to Fate
dumps.
Stay
Like
Night,
everything
where
is
it's
just.
No,
Yeah,
I mean
they're-
like Fate Zero is more info dumpy
If
as
you-
the first episode.
If
than
you
either
derp
one
out
of the first two
of any of
episodes
the
of Fate Stay
episodes
Night.
in Fate Zero for 15 minutes, you're probably not gonna have a clue what goes on. You're just gonna be like, "Wait, what? What just happened?"
No,
Yeah.
I mean I think the biggest issue when entering Fate Zero as an anime is the first 40 minutes because it's very info dumpy. It's more info dumpy than the rest of the series, where it's just like, this is how this works, 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 this is how this works. These are these characters, these are their motivations, where if you blank on even a moment of the character backstories, you'll run into them in the series and you'll be like, duh, who's that guy
So in
again?
short, Wexter agrees with us, Luke.
Yeah, he agrees with us. Stay Night.
Unlimited Blade Works is
the
probably
better
more
show to start with.
accessible. It's a better show
we're
to
talking about
start with.
accessibility right now.
Yeah, like, I think it's a better show to start with, but if you're more of a seasoned anime fan, where you've seen these kind of shows in the past, where you're used to stuff like Berserk, where you're used to stuff like, what would be another good
Monogatari
example of one of
series?
these kind of shows?
Or even if you
Yeah, the
really like
Monogatari
things like
series, where you're used to, like, Bakemonogatari and all that stuff. Fate Zero
or
is
e-
very accessible, it's perfectly fine to start there, but if you're more of a newbie, definitely go with Unlimited Blade Works, or if you're going to show it to a newbie, Unlimited Blade Works is probably the best place to start.
definitely. It's probably also, if you're just, like, if you're a particularly large fan of, like, fantasy epics or Greek tragedies, Fate Zero is probably also a good place to start, because it's very, it follows the line of those, like,
or you
tropes
just,
and
like,
whatnot.
film
I feel like you're edging in on
Yeah,
that.
film noir.
Like, not really, but kind of, is the kind of way I feel about that, just because Fate Zero doesn't... I mean, let's be honest, it's there, but it's not really there. Like, the focus on it's pretty minimal.
I mean, Fate Zero is kind of more like if you're... It's a newer Bucci series. It's very noir, it's very tragedy, it's very... It hits
There
a
is
lot
no
of those
happy
tropes.
ending.
There isn't...
People die
but I mean,
when
like,
they're
yeah,
killed.
like, I mean, Zero is... Yeah, like, I mean, I think Unlimited Blade Works is more accessible, but I think when everything's all said and done, I think Zero is probably going to be the better series. No
Most
offense
likely.
to Unlimited Blade Works or the second season that's not even out yet, because I could be completely wrong right now, and I could be like, by the end of season 2, I'll be like, oh my god, that was amazing! No, I think
Right,
Zero's
well, I
probably...
mean, that's gonna...
The first season was the first season so far, at least.
Even when I read the visual novel, I found Zero just to be better. The one that will probably, if it gets done well, the one that will really give Zero a run for its money will be Heaven's Feel. Not in the way that they're both, like, extremely similar. They are similar. Probably the biggest difference I would say between them is that Zero is the more dark and mature series, while Heaven's Feel is the overall darker of the two.
I think we gotta be careful when we paraphrase dark, because when people think dark, sometimes they think blood, gore, grittiness. I think what we mean by dark is more mature themes. Like, there's more mature
No, this is more dark gore. No, Heaven's Feel is more dark gore.
You mean like that kind of dark, where it is, like, bloody, gory,
Yeah.
gritty, like, heads coming off?
Yes.
That kind of thing when people use the word dark?
Yes, I mean that.
Oh, in that case, I really look forward to Heaven's Feel. My inner gorehound will go nuts.
Oh, you're gonna like it. You're gonna definitely like that then.
No, well, I mean, I think overall we can all agree here, so far with the Unlimited Blade Works Season 1, it's good, it's got faults, it's probably not as good as Zero Season 1, but
watch
it's
it.
definitely...
It's even
Go
with
watch
its
it.
faults,
It's
still
amazing.
better than a lot of
It's-
series.
Yes. It's
It's-
still probably one of the best animes of the year.
I
I'm not
wouldn't
gonna
really
say
call
it's
it...
the best anime of the year, but it's definitely up there.
I would probably say it's in my personal running of the best anime of the year.
Yeah,
Like,
same here. It's
yeah,
not,
because, I mean,
in my personal enjoyment way, it's probably my favorite anime of 2014, but
it's
not going to
it's
be
not a
everyone's.
Monogatari Season 2 last year, where it was just like, it was the clear,
But
for a
that
lot of people,
season
the best
sucked.
show of the year. But I think it's definitely...
it did suck. But anyway, let's not...
I'm talking about it for a lot of people.
That's a story
That was
for another time, guys.
whatever. I think for a lot of people that was like my best anime of the year. But I think this is definitely in heat with a lot of the really good shows this year. That I think people are probably
Definitely
going to
beats
say,
Versailles.
Oh, well, I think by release time, Grisaya's episode will be coming after this, and that's an entirely different pot of worms. But
No.
yeah, I think it's hit expectations for a lot of people. I think Fate Zero Unlimited Blade Works has hit a lot of people's expectations. I think Season 2 will be mind-blowing.
Season 2 will be the deciding factor. Is it better than 0? You'll find out in Season 2.
It has to be Season 2. Like, I think the biggest factor here is Season 2. Will the foreshadowing they've done in Season 1 hamper Season 2?
or will
Where
it-
you're like, oh, come on, I saw that coming a mile away. Or will you go, you know what? That was actually really well done. Like, I
It's
think
still-
I don't think you were doing that for surprise value. I think you did that for, this is just a really cool moment.
Gonna come down to Season 2.
They still definitely have a lot of cards left unplayed. There's definitely more to be revealed, so...
They've got 12 episodes to do it all. They got 12 episodes to, really surpass Fate Zero.
It's got 12 episodes. I'm going to assume there's probably going to be an hour-long opening and an hour-long ending episode. Like, just from their recent
Because they're
track
just
record.
really liking to do that.
Just based on
But
nothing,
I mean-
we're just gonna assume that it'll be. Just why not?
Yeah.
I'm going to assume there's going to be 2-hour-long episodes in Season 2. I'm calling it right now. And you know what?
They're both
If
going
I
to be at the
hit
beginning.
I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to do the Wexter's prediction list. And every time a prediction was hit on Hummingbird, I'm going to make a post called Called It. And you're not going to know what I'm referring to unless you've seen this episode of HumCast, where I'm going to go, called it, called it, called it, Called it.
So the
You're
question
going to need
is
to make
the
like
last,
a spreadsheet for this. Just a heads up.
the very last thing is, when can we expect to see the first episode of the second season? Is that just going to air next week like normal?
It's going to air April.
April.
It's going to be April. So it's going to start in the spring season. It's not going to be the
2015.
Spring. And overall, though, it's been a really...
April. You see why I have a problem with the ending now?
Man, April, though, I thought it was just going to continue. I thought they were just going to run it in cores. No, they're really dividing the seasons.
Yeah.
It's kind of doing an old Noah Zero, where it's just like, here's season 1, you're going to have to wait a few months, here's season 2.
No, it's doing a Fate Zero. Fate Zero did this the exact same way. It started with Fate.
Yeah. I mean, at least we got Out No Zero to look forward to, right?
Nah, man, I'm waiting for JoJo. JoJo also pulled this. A lot of shows are pulling this, actually.
I think we can all safely agree, just from our feelings about 2014 as a whole, in some ways it was better than 2013. There was more consistently good shows being released, but there hasn't been that series where it goes, oh my god, that was amazing.
The anime has not been saved yet.
It hasn't been saved. And hopefully Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works Season 2 will save anime.
Yeah, but that's a
It
2015
will
series.
save 2015. It's not going to say 2014. 2014.
Yeah,
It's not going to say
it's a
2014. There's no
2015
saving
series.
2014.
Yeah.
Josiah's killed 2014. Like, Fate Zero is going to save 20... Not Fate Zero. Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works is going to save 2015.
We'll see.
Definitely.
we got some things coming up in 2015 that are we'll see.
Are definitely interesting.
Yeah.
They're definitely big runners. I could think of
Messiah
Unlimited
Season
Blade Works, JoJo, Charlotte. Those are probably all decently large contenders.
You
So.
got Out Nose Season 2
So-
as well. You got what else you got? I think there was Death Parade.
The
was one
Psycho-Pass
series that
movie.
I'm on the edge about, possibly. Ansatsu, Gyoshitsu, I think.
You know what? Let's save that for our 2015 our 2015 chart episode. But for now, let's close out our Unlimited Blade Works episode, because I think we've kind of said enough as is until the next time we sit around our mics and talk about Unlimited Blade Works.
Which will be in April,
I
apparently.
agree. Probably in April, yeah. That's going to be a while now. Well, I guess that's it then. My name has been Luca, and today with me on HumCast I have had Wexter.
Yo!
And Heavenly.
See ya.
And we will see you guys later.